All right, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm excited to be here today, guys. I got some good things to share with you, some good lessons, some things that I wish I had known the first 25, 26 years I lived on this planet. I'm now about to turn 30, the big 3-0. However, this lesson will be all about conflict. And how do we avoid conflict? Conflict affects every part of our lives. It affects our business. It affects our family relationships. It affects our romantic relationships. It affects our friendships. And a lot of people, they don't, hey, Nicola, good to see you. How are you? It's good to see you on YouTube. I usually don't see you on here. And so people, Nicola, this is for you, okay? Because I know you're experiencing this in your life a lot right now with the conflict. So guys, if you listen to this video and you follow what it is that I'm sharing with you here, I promise you, you never have to experience conflict ever again. I never experienced conflict in my life, ever. And that's because I understand the inner dynamics of where conflict arises from, and I know how to communicate it. So in this video, we're going to get into the two key, I guess you could say, traits or aspects that generate conflict. Once you understand these principles and you start embodying them and applying them to your life, I promise you, you will never experience conflict ever again. If you were to hold a camera next to me 24 hours a day, you would probably see some things that you don't want to see, but you would, I promise you, you would never see me in an upset argument or me getting angry at someone. You just wouldn't see it. You might see me get angry, but not at anyone particular. You would never see me actually in conflict with another person. I get mad at technology when it's not working, and I get mad when the only time I think I ever get nearly close as in conflict is when someone tries to cold call me. I get upset there. But other than that, if you were to follow me around for 24 hours, you would not see me get into any conflict with anyone. And the reason for that is two reasons. Number one, communication. Guys, all conflict comes down to communication, number one, and then number two, effective listening. This is where all conflict comes from, every single bit of it. And I see this all the time. I've coached people in marriages. I've coached people in business relationships. I've coached pretty much every type of everything out there, even celebrities. I've coached like 2 celebrities at this point. So I understand the dynamics of conflict inside and out. And the reason why is because my life was so full of conflict for so long. I even went and did 2 combat tours to Afghanistan and experienced a lot of conflict there. And so those experiences made me ask, what is it about conflict? Like, what causes conflict in the world? Because I experienced so much of it in my life. So I really wanted to understand conflict because every human being I see has an inherent need for peace and for comfort and for the need to feel safe in their life. But a lot of the times we don't get to experience this. And it's because of conflict. So why is it that we experience conflict? Let's get real down to it. Number one is communication. We don't know how to effectively communicate because no one's ever showed us how, or we just don't know how to effectively communicate. Number two is effectively listen. No one knows how to effectively listen. A lot of people can hear, but they don't listen. And so later on in the video, I'm going to get further into those distinctions. Guys, at any point during this, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, feel free to share in the comments section right there, and I will get to them in the Q&A that we'll do in the end. Also, if you guys find this really useful, please share it with any family or friends. This is the work that I want to go out in the world, and that will help people and change their lives. Okay, so now where does communication come in? I had one client who came to me. Hey, Jan Can. I had one client who came to me and he said, Jared, no one listens to me. No one ever listens to me. And as soon as I hear a client or someone in my life who says, hey, Leslina, good to see you. As soon as I hear someone say to me, Jared, no one listens to me, immediately a light bulb goes off in my brain and I say, this person either has some people in his life who really don't know how to listen, or he doesn't know how to communicate. A lot of us are walking around in the world and we've never been taught how to effectively communicate. Okay, our voices aren't developed to that point where we're effectively communicating to other people. And so what happens is when we're not effectively communicating, we actually think that other people aren't listening to us. Now, sometimes that actually might be the case. Sometimes we're actually not really being listened to, and that's just the truth of the matter. However, a lot of the times, guys, the real issue is we're not effectively communicating our message. It's amazing what happens whenever I'm in my client calls and I'm sitting there and I'm just listening to the person. I'm actually really present with them. I'm listening to what it is that they're sharing. They'll hear what I'm saying, and I'll hear what they're saying, and then I'll repeat back to them what they said, and they'll be like, yes, you get it. And they get really excited because they finally feel like they're understood. Even with people who are bad communicators, I can understand, because this is my work in the world, I can understand what it is that they're trying to, hey, Maria, good to see you. I can understand what it is that they're trying to communicate. And so the first reason why there's conflict is we're not communicating the right way. We're not communicating effectively. And guys, that's a skill that just takes time. That's all it comes down to. It's just a skill that takes time. I can remember being in Afghanistan and I had to talk with village elders. I didn't even speak their language. And there would be these communication barriers that were really frustrating. And there were cultural barriers. There were all these different types of barriers. And they would get frustrated with me, and I would get frustrated from them. And then I finally realized it was like, oh, it's just because our communication isn't effective right now. They're not understanding my culture. I'm definitely not understanding their culture. So there's some communication barriers there. Now, what happens is when people don't feel listened to, this is where number 2 comes in, effective listening. When people don't feel like they're heard or their voice is listened to, they get really upset. They get upset, they get angry, they start getting very frustrated. Have you guys ever had that moment where you are on call with someone and like they can't understand you, or the line starts breaking? What happens? You start getting frustrated. You're like, oh, dude, I need a new network carrier, or I need a new service, or oh my gosh, this is so annoying. Have you guys ever had that experience? So that's why. It's because we're not feeling heard or listened to. The other day I was on call with Microsoft. I was trying to buy a product from Microsoft for one of my programs, and I was talking to a robot, and I got so upset. I was like, I can't believe that they would have a robot replace a human being. And I told him, I was like, I'm not going to buy your product because your customer service sucks. And I got really frustrated and upset. And then they got a human on the line and apologized. And then I was like, okay, I might buy your product now. So that's what we want here, is we want to recognize that any upset that we have or any anger in our life, it comes from not feeling heard, not feeling listened to. It's that simple. So all conflict, all tension and anger comes from not feeling heard, not feeling listened to. And so a lot of us, it's either we have people in our life who really don't know how to listen, who have never been trained to listen. Okay, and we'll go into how to listen. That'll be a whole nother video. Or number 2, we don't know how to effectively communicate our message because we've never been trained to how effectively communicate our message. So it's really important to have those 2 pieces down. It's really important to understand those. Think about every time that you've ever gotten mad, guys. Literally any time that you've gotten mad or upset in your life, I can promise you it somehow relates back to somewhere where you didn't feel heard or listened to or validated, or where your voice wasn't being heard. When people act out, the only reason why people act out in society in all these unconscious ways where they get angry or they get in fights, it's actually communicating. They're actually trying to communicate. They just don't know how to do it. So they get mad. They get mad, or they get in fights, or they get angry. So when it comes to communication, guys, when it comes to conflict, the only reasons why we have conflicts is because, one, we're either not communicating effectively because no one's ever taught us how to use our voice and how to use our words and how to use stories or how to speak up for what it is that we need or want or how to communicate. Or two, we just don't know how to listen. We're off, we're thinking about something else. We're not actually present with the person in front of us. And so a lot of relationships go wrong or go haywire because we don't know how to listen or we don't know how to effectively communicate. And that's where all conflict comes from. Guys, literally all conflict in the world comes from not feeling like you're understood or heard or listened to. And that simply comes down to communication issues or listening issues. People aren't actually listening to you because they have filters. Now, what are filters? Filters are literally screens that we have in our experience that keep us from effectively hearing what's actually being said. So I'll give you a perfect example of this. Let's say someone keeps telling you, so a filter, it's literally like it filters out the meaning. So in order to be effectively communicating, we want to make sure that people understand what it is that they're saying. And that's what meaning is. Meaning means I understand what you're trying to say to me. I understand what you mean. So meaning comes from effective communication, but it also comes from how we think. And so have you guys ever had a conversation with someone where you were talking to another individual and it was just like they couldn't understand anything that you were saying? And it's like, dude, this person just does not understand me. And then it was like frustrating. Well, it's because their thinking or their filters were up. They weren't actually understanding how to take in information. They had filters there in place that couldn't allow them to understand what it was that they were taking. So what is a filter? A filter is a screen. Think of it like a filtration system, literally a screen that keeps certain things from coming in. And we all have filters. Now, my job as a coach is to be an objective, compassionate listener while also speaking the objective, compassionate truth. So all the time when I'm communicating to people, I see their filters. I'll give you a perfect example. One woman was I was talking with one woman, and I was sharing with her my program, and I was sharing with her about how my program could help bring her business to double-digit months, to reoccurring double-digit months. And she kept saying, like, Jared, I'm not interested in more money. I'm not interested in more money. That's not why I do this work. And I heard her say that, but I didn't listen to it. So I kept telling her how my program would help her business get to double-digit months. And she kept saying, well, I'm not actually looking for that. And I heard what she said, but I didn't actually listen to it. And if I'd actually listened to what she was saying in that moment, I just would have stopped saying, I said, okay, cool, the program's not a right fit for you. It's not going to help you get to it's going to help you get to double-digit months. But if you don't want to learn how to make more money in your business, then this program is definitely not for you. And so once I realized and recognized that, then I was like, oh, okay, I need to back off. I don't need to tell her about this program anymore. But I couldn't, because I was focused on, my filter was, this woman has a business, so therefore she wants to make the most money. That was my assumption. That was my filter that was actually filtering me from connecting with her in that moment. Now, I still don't understand why you would want to make more money in your business, but everyone has different value systems. So that's where I was with that. So guys, the important thing here to recognize is that everyone has different levels of thinking. And if we have conflict that arises with our employees, if we have conflict that arises with our sales and anywhere, with our directors, with our clients, it's because, one, we're not either effectively communicating, or two, they're not effectively listening. And the great thing about this is, one, you can work on effectively being communicative, and then two, you can double check to see if people are listening. You just have to be able to communicate. Like, for instance, whenever I communicate with my clients or my assistant, or even in my close relationships, I will ask them, I say, are you really understanding what I'm saying? Because a part of me thinks that you're not actually understanding what I'm saying. Are you really getting that? I want to make sure that we're effectively communicating here. Have you guys ever seen people talking back and forth and they're actually not talking? Like they're talking, but they're not actually listening to each other. It's an amazing thing to witness. I can remember being in a Starbucks one time, hearing people, and they were talking to each other, but they weren't actually engaging or interacting with each other. They both thought that they were talking to each other, but they weren't. One person would say one thing and another person would say another, and there was actually no connection being made, but they didn't realize it because in their mind, they were both thinking that they were having a conversation. One friend was talking about how her boss was such like a bitch, and the other friend was talking about her boyfriend. And neither of them would actually ask each other about like to deepen the conversation. One would just say, my boss was being this and I don't like them. And then the other one would say, yeah, my boyfriend, I just don't like my boyfriend at all. He's doing this right now and it just makes me upset. And then the other one would talk about her boss. And so they were just going back and forth. They were sharing equal hates around things going on in their life, but they actually weren't engaging each other. They actually weren't going into deeper conversation. When we're truly listening, we ask another person about something. We ask about their life. We ask about the event more. We actually engage with them. And so when it comes to having relationships, guys, or when it comes to having conflict, it's really important to understand, one, are we effectively communicating? And then two, are we effectively listening? Are we actually listening to what it is that people are saying to us? Does that make sense? I hope this all makes sense for you guys. I hope this is helping. Beautiful. That's all I got for this time. Guys, what questions do you have for me? What questions? I want to answer some questions here and help you guys out with this. I'm sure some of you guys have some of these issues in your relationships. What do you got for me, Maria? Is this all making sense? Are you seeing how, hey, Yankan, good to see you. Are you guys seeing how this works? Are you seeing how when you communicate, if something doesn't go the way that you want to, it's because if there's conflict, it's because there's just not effective communication or there's just not effective listening. And guys, if this is really helpful, please share with any family or friends. I want this to get out to the world. This is the stuff that's going to make the world a better place. And so there's the filters. The filters are those screens that we put up unconsciously that keep us from actually having a relationship. It's the way that we interpret. So for instance, let's say that you're a sales guy and you're always selling your product and you're used to people really pushing you off and saying like, oh, this person's just trying to sell me. So you're used to people shunning away from you. Well, you might perceive the world as a place where people are going to just run away from you. And so before you even start a conversation, you might say, hey, don't run away. I just want to share this with you. And then the other person might say, what are you talking about? But that's because in that conversation, you're automatically assuming that these people want to run away from you because of your past experiences. So those are what we call filters, and filters get in the way of effective communication. Nicola says, it makes sense to me. Seen it a lot this week. Thank you, Jared. Yeah, you got it, Nicola. I'm glad that it helps. How's your situation going? I know that the last time you were in some work trouble. How's everything going with that? Maria says, what happens when a family member doesn't care about being hostile or aggressive? Maria, what's the reason? Why are they being hostile or aggressive? What do you think's motivating them to be hostile or aggressive? Sounds good, Nicola. Yeah, I got some stuff that I want to share with you. We're starting up our School for Soulpreneur program in 3 weeks. We just finished our last class. That would have been 2 weeks ago. And we had our top performer made some really good money in their passion. So I'll share that with you. We'll touch base with that. So Maria, what exactly is the motivation behind their passive aggression? He has a lot of anger inside. He is a teen. Okay, guys, if we have anger inside, it's because we're not being allowed to express something and we just don't know how to express it. So for instance, Maria, this teenager of yours, I don't know if he's your son or is he like a family member, a brother, or a son? Let's see, any of those? Okay, your son. So if your son has a lot of anger, it's because he isn't able to, there's something that's upsetting him in his life that he doesn't know how to effectively communicate. That's all anger is, guys. Anger is just repressed energy. And so when we don't know how to communicate what it is that we're upset about, what happens? We just get angry and we feel this tension. That's all anger is. It's pent up energy because we're not able to express something in our environment. So, Maria, let me ask you this. What do you think it is that he's not allowed to express, that he's holding back, that's causing this anger? Anger is just a product of unexpressed emotion. That's all it is. Jan Ken says, yeah, it does. It is something that I have been trying to do. I personally want to talk and communicate, but something stops me. What are some tips? You want to talk and communicate. What's keeping you from talking, Jan Ken? If you're afraid to communicate, there's something that's keeping you. There's a fear there. What fear? What are you scared of? What's the fear? So he doesn't want to tell you. If he doesn't want to tell you, Maria, that means he doesn't fully trust you. And I know that might not sound good, and I know you might not want to hear that. But that's the truth of the matter. If he doesn't want to tell you, then he doesn't fully trust you. Why do we tell secrets to our friends? We tell secrets to our friends because we trust our friends. So if he doesn't want to tell you something, Maria, I know you might not like to hear that, but if he doesn't want to tell you something, it's because either he doesn't trust you, or he's embarrassed to say it, or he doesn't think that you'll be able to understand him. Those are the 3 or 4 reasons why people don't tell us certain things. I know that might be hard to hear, but that's the truth of the matter. We tell the people that we trust, we tell them everything if we trust them. So there's something about the relationship that you have with your son, Maria, that he doesn't feel comfortable telling you, and it's causing him anger. So if he doesn't want to tell you, what do you think is the thing that's keeping him from telling you, Maria? What do you think the thing is that he doesn't want to tell you? Can you think of anything? Yeah, and Ken, I'm just going to go back to your question. I'll go back and forth here. Guys, if you have trouble communicating, so Jan Ken says, for me, it is being afraid of saying something wrong, and it seems that the trust is also that I need. Okay, so the fear of saying something wrong. What would be the wrong thing to say? And who would get mad at you or upset at you or angry at you for saying that wrong thing? Guys, if we're afraid of saying the wrong thing, it means that there's some past experience in our life where we said something where we got a reaction that scared us or put us on the defensive. And so then we don't want to say something related to that category. Maria says maybe a mix of the 3 reasons you gave. Yeah, definitely. There's a couple things here. Is there, the best thing that I would suggest, Maria, is communicating to your son this. I would say, what's your son's name? What's your son's name, Maria? Santiago. So what I would say, Maria, to Santiago is I would say, hey, look, I just want you to know that I see a lot of anger, and I know you're really upset, and I'm not sure what that's about, and I would like to know because I want to help you. Is there something that I can do that will allow you to feel safe and that will allow you to trust me fully so you can share this thing with me? And then when you ask him that and soften it in that way, then he might feel more comfortable telling you. There was a lot of things that I wanted to say to my mother growing up, but I was afraid to tell her because I was afraid that she might get mad or she might get upset. And then if she got mad or upset, then that meant that she didn't love me. which wasn't a true, but that's what my mind told me. Does that make sense, Maria? So the best thing that you can do is create safe space around your son to make him feel safe. Because when we feel safe, we naturally open up. It's like a flower. You ever seen a flower where you like hit the center of a flower and what happens? The flower, its petals close up because it wants to protect its center. Humans are the exact same way. We're very, very delicate. But once we create safe space, what naturally happens is we start to open up. And when we open up, then we can release our gifts. And just like a flower, we can release our fragrance with the world. And as humans, we can release our gifts. So if your son is angry, it's because there's a part of him that's closed off. And if there's a part of him that's closed off, it's because on some unconscious level, he doesn't feel safe to open up. And so if he won't tell you, then chances are, Maria, he either one, doesn't want to anger you, two, he doesn't want to upset you or hurt your feelings. So I would communicate that. I would say, Santiago, I know that you're really angry and you don't want to tell me what it's about, but I just want you to know that I can take it. If you think I'm going to get upset and angry, I won't. If you think it's going to hurt my feelings, it's okay. Me having an important, open, honest, authentic relationship with you is what's most important. Jan Kan says, there have been situations where I was not allowed to say what I think because it felt like it was not important. Okay, gotcha. So Jan, it sounds like you went through a phase in life where when you opened up, no one listened to you. So you automatically just started to shut down. Is that correct? Oh, good, Maria. Yeah, I'm glad that helps. Yeah, if you want to go further into that, let me know and I can take out a call with you. I'll put a link here below if there's something deeper there. Let me find this. Guys, is this making sense with the communication? And this, guys, this happens in our business. Like this has happened in my business and it's kept me from being a successful businessman at times. Not anymore, but it used to when I had the issue. And so then I started thinking to myself, well, how can I solve this issue? Because this isn't like, I want to actually solve this and really figure this out. Has anyone had this affect their business where they get to a point where they're so, where like they're not actually able to truly listen or see what's really going on? Has anyone had this affect their business before? Maria, how has it affected, yeah, both Jan and Maria say yes. Guys, how has it affected your work? How has it affected your business lives? So, Jan, you were saying that there have been situations where I was not allowed to say what I think because it felt like it was not important. Anytime, so that's the other thing, guys. When we feel like we're shut down or we don't feel validated, when we don't feel heard or listened to, okay, when we don't feel heard or listened to, one of the things that happens is Jan says, yes, now I've been trying to solve this and I'm trying to go into my career that requires a lot of people relations. So I'm trying to let go of this. Gotcha. Yeah, Jan, we can go into this a little bit deeper. I got about 5 more minutes on the call and then I gotta get going here. So we'll go into this a little bit deeper. What's your business right now, or what's your career? What are you doing and what's your role? And how is this affecting your career specifically? Maria says, my work is fine. I flow very well with everyone, but with my son is different. Maria, how is it different with your son as opposed to work? I think that's an important question. How is the relationship? So at the end of the day, whatever we're doing in life, our relationships function all pretty much the same. Jan Can says social working and helping others. Okay, great. So social working and helping others. So you're worried that when you speak up, Jan, and the thing that you really want to help people with, you're not going to be able to help them as effectively because you can't effectively communicate what it is that you want to communicate because you think that they might not be open to it, or you think that you might not be heard. Is that what I'm hearing? Maria, does the question that I asked, does that make sense? So what about the relationship with your son is similar to the relationship in your business? At the end of the day, they're both relationships, but what makes it different? Sometimes it's important to understand the difference in a relationship so we can take it into its proper context. Hey, Senator Vo, good to see you. And Maria, if you don't feel comfortable going into this here on the call, just let me know. That's perfectly fine. I totally understand. I'll just share a link with you there and we can go into it deeper in the comments section. Okay, gotcha. You don't take things personally at work. Gotcha. So the heart isn't involved as much at work. It's just with your son because there's that heart connection there. Yep. So Jan, I'm going to go back to you. Maria, I'll go into this. I'll ask you another question after with Jan. So Jan, what could you do differently in order to ensure that people are going to listen to what it is that you have to share? What could you say in the beginning of your conversations or before you speak to ensure that everyone's going to listen to what it is that you have to share? Is there something that you could do beforehand or say something beforehand? And Maria, so you're saying that you don't take things personally at work. What about this situation with your son and being personal makes it harder to connect? So what about the relationship with your son and how personal it is? What about that makes it harder for you to solve this issue? Like, let's say you have this exact same issue that you have with your son at a person with work who it wasn't personal at all. Why is the situation with your son? Why is it the fact that the situation is personal? What about that makes it harder for you? We're getting really deep into this. This is good. Guys, a lot of the times what's happening. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So Maria says, because I feel vulnerable with him, no walls at all. Because I feel vulnerable with him, no walls at all. Okay. And what about being vulnerable is scary? Or what about being vulnerable is hard for you, Maria? What about being vulnerable is hard? We're getting closer to it. We're almost there. I can feel it. Jan Can says, I'm trying to have some small talk. Okay, so Jan, this is what I do. I remember when I used to have the same exact problem where I was worried. I would think to myself, okay, how is it that people are going to listen to me? Like, how is it that people are going? Yeah, Maria, that's good. Maria says, yes, I'm going to cry soon. Yeah, we're getting close to the release. I can feel it. So Jan, having small talk before you share something important, that's actually not going to help you out too much. I'll just be straight up honest with you. Most people tune out in small talk. Humans have an inherent need to listen to things that are very important. Okay. And so one of the things that I do to make sure that I'm being heard the right way is I will tell everyone, I say, hey guys, I'm going to share something that's really important, that's really valuable. Can I have your attention? And I ask for their attention. I just ask for it straight up. Hey, can I have your guys' ears for about 5 minutes? I know that you're doing something different, but this is really important and it's really going to bring you a lot of value. So can I get your guys' attention for 5 or 10 minutes? And I ask for it. And then they say yes. So you can ask for it. Jan, you can use your voice to ask for what it is that you want in that way. Does that make sense? It's really that simple. So if you have social, are you a social worker, Jan? Is that what you do? You're a social worker, I'm guessing? Okay, so Maria, I'm going to come back to you because you're on the verge of crying. That's always a good sign. Okay, so what about being vulnerable with your son is scary? What about being vulnerable with your son? Guys, vulnerability, it's scary. It feels very, very scary because we're totally open to the world. However, that's what makes us feel alive. And being vulnerable actually feels really good once we recognize we can't get hurt. We're only afraid to be vulnerable when we think we're hurt. We can get hurt. So what about being vulnerable with your son and open is scary? Okay, gotcha. Maria, when was the last time that you were vulnerable where you got hurt? So Jan, if you're doing social work, Jan, are you holding like presentations where like 5 or 10 or 15 people are there and they're involved? Is that what's happening? Okay, gotcha. So what about before going up into the presentation, you just say this, hey guys, I'm really excited to share all this with you. I got some things that I want to share. It's really valuable for you. This is why it's valuable. Can I get your attention for 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long you need their attention for? If you did that, how do you think that would change the dynamic in your interactions? Maria says like a week ago. So a week ago, you were vulnerable, you got hurt. And what about getting hurt? Like, what does that mean to get hurt to you? Is it to feeling sad? Is it the heart? You feel the heart break open? Like, what is getting hurt? What does that actually mean to you? Emotionally hurt? Physically hurt? Heart hurt? Got about 5 more minutes, guys, and then we're going to close this up. Great. That's great, Jan. Yeah, try that out, Jan, and let me know how it goes. Try that out and let me know how it goes. And okay, so Maria says emotionally, he can be hostile at times. Okay, so there's like that anger within him. So you don't feel safe around him. So when you get vulnerable and you have your heart open, and then if he gets angry, you don't feel safe around him. Is that the dynamic? Jan Ken, I'm going to share a link with you here. Okay. Yeah, Maria says that's exactly the dynamic. What if you asked him this? What if you told him, Maria, Santiago, there's times where you get mad and you get upset and it scares me and I get scared and I love you, but I don't want to be around you when you're angry because it scares me. Can you share with me why you're so angry so I can feel safe around you, so I can know why you're angry and then I can feel more safe and we can solve this problem together? What about doing that, Maria? Center of O says the peaceful warrior's way is not about invulnerability, but absolute vulnerability to the world, to life, and to the presence you felt. Best film ever. Yeah, that's exactly it, Center of O. Do you live that yet? Are you living in that way? Oh, good, Maria. Yeah, try this approach. Try this approach and let me know how it goes. He's a son. I guarantee you he wants to have a really good relationship with his mom. Guaranteed. I wanted to have a good relationship with my mom, and I had a lot of anger for the first 23 years of my life. Now, me and my mom have a great relationship, and I have no anger against her whatsoever. And we truly love each other, and we express that every single day. I could bring it up on my cell phone right now and show that to you. If I went from a relationship that was really bad with my mom, where I had a lot of anger, I know that you can create that with your son as well too. Yeah, see, look, I'll show you. I don't know if you guys can see that. See that? That was today. My mom said, "Good night, I love you," and I said, "Good night, Mom, I love you to the moon and back." And me and my mom used to never get along at all. So if me and my mom had that dynamic, I know that you and Santiago can have that dynamic. All it takes is some right communication skills. So let me know how that call goes, or let me know how that goes, Maria. And I'm going to put a link here so you can connect with me more deeper on it, and we can go into it a little bit deeper once you see how it plays out. Same with you, Jan Can. I don't know if you're still on the call, but I put a link there where you can use to schedule a call, and you can connect with me. We can go into it a little bit deeper. Oh, good, guys. All right, that's where we'll finish up for the night. Thanks for connecting with me. I wish you all the best. Good luck. Let me know how things go, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.